Hello, my name is Mederick, and this is a message from Will.
Hello, this is Med. I think that it's time to put Mederick in his place. He thinks that since he's the middle child and gets most of the airtime, he's the best. But that's going to change. I'm going to be running the Instagram channel, so if you look at the description, you can check out some behind the scenes stuff. Okay, back to Mederick.
Last week, Med, Eric, and I discussed the fifth chapter of First Samuel. We learned that God's desire is for us to faithfully serve Him. However, since we are not always faithful, He allows certain things to happen to us so that we can turn back to Him. Now that God has shown Himself strong against the Philistines, will they return the Ark of the Covenant? How have the people of Israel been faring? Have they decided to serve God reverently? As always, if you want to skip to a certain part, the timestamps for the introduction, chapter read through, and conclusion are in the description. If you've missed, the ark of the Lord was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners and said, "What shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us with what we shall send it to its place." They said, "If you send away the ark of the God of Israel, do not send it empty, but by all means return him a guilt offering. Then you will be healed, and it will be known to you why his hand does not turn away from you." And they said, "What is the guilt offering that we shall return to him?" They answered, 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines, for the same plague was on all of you and on your lords. So you must make images of your tumors and images of your mice that ravage the land, and give glory to the God of Israel. Perhaps he will lighten his hand from off you and your gods and your land. Why should you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts? After he had dealt severely with them, did they not send the people away, and they departed?
So after 7 months, the Philistines decide they want to get rid of the Ark of the Covenant or at least return it. So they talked to the priests and they said that they must have some sort of offering in addition to returning the Ark of the Covenant. And what they did is that they had 10 gold pieces, 5 in the shape of tumors and 5 in the shape of rats. The number 5 has to do with the number of cities that the Philistines had. And the shape of the tumors and the rats represented the plague and disease that afflicted them during these 7 months. What was good is that they realized that they could not contend against the God of Israel. They knew their history as well. They mentioned how the Egyptians suffered at the hand of God because they had resisted him for so long.
Now then take and prepare a new cart and 2 milk cows on which there has never come a yoke, and yoke the cows to the cart, but take their calves home away from them. And take the ark of the Lord, and place it on the cart, and put it in a box at its side, the figures of gold, which you are returning to him as a guilt offering. Then send it off, and let it go its way, and watch. If it goes up on the way to its own land, to Beth Shemesh, then it is he who has done us this great harm. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that struck us. It happened to us by coincidence.
Though it seemed that they were repentant and ready to be rid of the Ark of the Covenant and ready to be rid of the affliction from God, they decided that the tumors and the plague for the 7 months at each of the cities where the ark was taken was not enough. They decided to make another plan. They said, okay, we're going to have these 2 cows that have never been yoked. In other words, they were not used to being led by a yoke, so they should have resisted the yoke. And they had their calves taken away from them. So their instinct as mothers, they should have gone toward their calves, not away from their calves to the Israelite territory. So this test was doomed to fail unless God was the one that brought the tumors and the plague among the Philistines.
The men did so, and took 2 milk cows and yoked them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. And they put the ark of the Lord on the cart, and the box with the golden mice and the images of their tumors. And the cows went straight in the direction of Beth Shemesh along one highway, lowing as they went. They turned neither to the right nor to the left, and the Lord of the Philistines went after them as far as the border of Beth Shemesh.
So the Philistines listened to their priests, and they did as they said. They set up the cows with the yoke and took their calves away from them, and they sent them on their way to the Israel territory. And we see how God works through these cows. Remember that God was not able to work through the Israelite army because they did not serve him properly. God was not able to work through the Philistines because they did not turn away from their gods. But we see God working through these cows, even though they did not know how to work together using a yoke. Even though they had that desire to return to their calves, they went straight toward Israel, and it says they turned neither to the right nor to the left, but they were lowing as they went. What that means is that they were not happy about this situation. They would rather be with their calves. They might have been uncomfortable because of the yoke, but they still did God's will.
Now the people of Beth Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley, and when they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark, they rejoiced to see it. The cart came into the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh and stopped there. A great stone was there, and they split up the wood of the cart and offered the cows as a burnt offering to the Lord. And the Levites took down the ark of the Lord and the box that was beside it, in which were the golden figures, and set them upon the great stone. And the men of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrificed sacrifices on that day to the Lord.
So the cows get to Beth Shemesh, and the people are overjoyed. They see that the presence of God has returned to Israel. They raised up this offering to God using the cows and the cart that was used to send the ark of the covenant. And it says here that the Levites were the ones that took the ark down. So this is very important because according to laws, there was a certain procedure to handling the ark so that no one would touch it or get hurt.
And when the 5 lords of the Philistines saw it, they returned that day to Ekron. These are the golden tumors that the Philistines returned as a guilt offering to the Lord, one for Ashdod, one for Gaza, one for Ashkelon, one for Gath, one for Ekron. And the golden mice, according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines belonging to the 5 lords, both fortified cities and unwalled villages. The great stone beside which they set down the ark of the Lord is a witness to this day in the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh.
When the cart was sent by the Philistines, the lords followed behind. They weren't guiding it, they just wanted to see where it would go to determine whether or not the affliction had come from God. And they see that it gets to Beth Shemesh without any guidance other than God. And when they see that it happens, then they return back to their lands, most likely persuaded that God had indeed punished them for disrespecting the Ark of the Covenant.
And he struck some of the men of Beth Shemesh because they looked upon the ark of the Lord. He struck 70 men of them, and the people mourned because the Lord had struck the people with a great blow.
So after the ark was returned, the people of Beth Shemesh offered a sacrifice. All seemed well. But then some of the men of Beth Shemesh decided they would try to look inside the ark of the covenant. And what happened? God struck down or killed 70 men from Beth Shemesh, which caused great anguish among the people.
Then the men of Beth Shemesh said, who is able to stand before the Lord, this holy God? And to whom shall he go up away from us? So they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to you.
So the people of Beth Shemesh decided they didn't want the Ark of the Covenant either. So we see a trend. Philistines didn't want it because they didn't want to change. Now the people of Beth Shemesh didn't want it because they did not want to change. So they said, to whom shall he go up away from us? So they called the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned the ark to the Lord. Come down and take it up to you. So they just didn't want any part of it at all.
After 7 months of plague and sickness, the Philistines decided they've had enough of the affliction from God. We may look at them and say, what took them so long? Or why didn't they just serve God instead of their ineffective God? However, if we take a moment and look at our own lives, how many times have we had struggles in our own lives? They may have been relationship problems at home, school, or work, or perhaps they were time or money management problems. Did we react like the Philistines and ignore God's subtle and not so subtle nudges back to the light? How many times have we asked for seemingly impossible signs from God, and even when He sends them, we continue to ignore Him? The people of Beth Shemesh were joyful to see the Ark of the Covenant and were right on track, realizing that they needed to thank God for having returned it. They offered the carts and the cows as a burnt offering, and they allowed the Levites, who were trained to handle the ark, to properly move it. In his first letter to the Corinthians, Paul states the importance of fellowship because we all have different gifts. This does not mean that only a few of us have to take time to study the Bible, but we must acknowledge our weaknesses and depend on our Christian family for support when we need it. Afterward, some of the people of Beth Shemesh decided they would disobey their law and look upon the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark was a representation of the presence of God, and the expectation was for it to be treated as such. When these 70 men did not, God struck them down. He killed them. God is holy, which means that He is separate from sin, and we as humans are born in sin. As Christians, we are to be like God and live apart from sin, and this is accomplished by keeping His commands. Love God above all things, and love others as yourself. If we claim to be Christians but do not follow His commandments, we are not only hurting ourselves, but those around us. As in the previous episodes, God has given the characters in the stories, regardless of their nationality, a choice in serving Him. Before their great defeat against the Philistines, the Israelites only wanted God as a good luck charm that would get them out of tough spots. The Philistines wanted a trophy that they could put among their other idols, and the people of Beth Shemesh wanted to serve God irreverently. In these cases, the people wanted God's blessing without genuine change. If we do not accept to live according to God's will, we will also find that our victories are short-lived and heavily overshadowed by God's judgment. At the end of the chapter, the people of Beth Shemesh asked the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim to take the Ark of the Covenant. When God confronts us with our sin, will we send Him away like the Philistines and the people of Beth Shemesh? If you've missed any episodes and would like to catch up, I have a link in the description that will take you to the playlist with all the videos of 1 Samuel. As Med stated earlier, you can check out our Instagram channel for more information about us. Thank you for watching.